But I agree with you on the start of the story. I love the start of the story that says like men still name it the day of the king's fear. For Kull, king of Valusia, was only a man after all. There was never a bolder man, but all things have their limits, even courage. Of course, Kull had known apprehension and cold whispers of dread, sudden starts of horror, and even the shadow unknown terror. But these had been but starts and leapings in the shadows of the mind, caused mainly by surprise or some loathsome mystery or unnatural thing, more repugnance than real fear. So real fear in him was so rare a thing that men marked the day. Now that's a great way to start a
Yeah.
start a story. Sets the mood and scene what we're gonna encounter in this story. Also, once again, this story proves that Kull is the stories are more metaphysical. There are more wanderings and thinking about the life itself, the meaning, and
The universe.
the universe elements, the things, what one thing is, what another thing is, and that's what this story gets into once again. That's what makes Kull so interesting, and that's why I think many people think Kull and Conan are very similar, but actually the stories are so different. If you take the time to read, you notice that the stories are very different. In like there's more mystery on the Kull side, and less definitive answers. Like Conan is much more down to earth. You know Conan, you know who he is, you know he's from Cimmeria and all that stuff. But with Kull, it's like the age itself is so mysterious, and he himself is also mysterious because it doesn't go into that great of detail as well about him in that sense either. So
I think one difference is that, well, I'll say two different thoughts on it. Kull, it's like wandering through a mist or a fog.
Yeah.
Or like in a snowstorm because, all three of us are from pretty far up in the north, and we get plenty of snowstorms in winter. And we've both gotten storms where you can't even see 5 feet in front of you, and the snow's just pouring down. Sometimes that's what Kull is like. You know what I mean? You're wandering through that kind of storm. On the other hand, there's a difference in attitude between Conan and Kull. The two have been compared to each other, but they're very diametrically different and opposite in a lot of ways. Kull is kind of depressed, but also, if I had to compare it, Conan is someone who maybe he ponders a lot of the things Kull does, but Conan has accepted that there are things in the universe he can't touch. He can't, that are beyond him. What's the point about worrying about it or stressing about it? It's beyond me. I accept that.
Yeah.
Whereas Kull takes the attitude, he broods about it.
Yeah.
Weighs him down.
And this story
time in his head.
Yeah, and this story is a prime example of something Conan would not do, but Kull does, which is kind of When I read this, because it's been a long time since I read this before, it was just interesting how I was like, "What, Kull? What are you doing?"
Good on you, Gola. You're a step ahead of me. I might have to wait a bit because, circumstances and whatnot. But maybe I'll see about getting myself those books for Christmas. It'd be a nice gift for myself. But anyways,
But also, if you just want it cheaper, you can get the Kindle thing. It's like $1. And you get all the.
That's good as a temporary thing, but Kindle.
Yeah. Of course, you want the paperbacks. That's obviously.
Like I don't mind Kindle if it's like for a few months or something. Like until I get it in the mail, I'll get the Kindle. But
true.
At some point, I want the paperback because you don't really own what's on your Kindle.
Yeah.
and it can be erased in the slightest of split seconds from someone on another keyboard.
Yeah, that's true.
Over at Amazon. So, spoiled. Anyways, Cthulhu is the most erudite scholar in the Seven Empires, and he's in the midst of a philosophical discussion with Kanu regarding the universe.
And Kanu is the ambassador from Pictdom.
Yep. And
then there's two, the chief counselor of Kull. And Brule is also here in the background, but he doesn't really do much in this story.
Which
he's there.
It's unusual for Brule not to be almost the center of action because he's such a dynamic character. I love Brule. Sorry, but the Spear Slayer's tied with Kull as my favorite character in these stories. Brule is honestly someone I've seen people try to compare him to Conan, but it's like he's nothing. No, Brule is someone who's more like Gimli from Lord of the Rings. He's just simply the very idea of the archetype of the loyal knight, and except he's a brother character. He's a twin, because Kull and Brule have a lot in common with Castor and Pollux. You know, the divine twins of Greek mythology. That's what they are in some ways.
But he's kind of different representation of, well, not different, but I mean, in Conan's time, the Picts are considered like very savage, like very savage, like some that you can't have friends or do negotiations. So, but this is more like how the Picts usually are, how they are in Kull's time and how they are in Bran McMorn's time later on. So it's kind of interesting because I read that Howard, like the Picts, that's why they are in every situation. I mean, through every age, because he really loved the Picts and their race and the idea of that. So
they go from civilization to barbarism to half civilized, you know, by the time of Kull, to savagery, and I'm considering savagery the negative of barbarism. Like it's they're truly darker in a lot of ways by Conan's era. And then they move back towards barbarism, and
when they conquer Aquilonia, they begin their journey back to taking steps once again towards civilization or more.
And the thing, but although that said, later writers, I don't know, I have not played much of Conan Exiles, and I've seen a bit of the new Titan Comics comic, but it seems like some of these writers can't resist giving Conan a Pictish girlfriend from time to time for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's unusual, so I guess that's that's why. Maybe that's why.
Yeah,
it's Conan. Of course, he'll have a girlfriend somewhere
in every corner.
Yeah, I mean, all women want him.
Yeah, except in the Roy Thomas run at a few points. But anyways,
I'd have to question if they were truly women in that case.
Yeah, good.
No, maybe they had priorities. you know, standards. Maybe they knew that wouldn't be such a good idea in the long haul.
No, that's true. That's true.
Conan just wanders off. But
yeah. Well, he's got a roving eye. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
But that said, the interesting thing with the philosophical discussion is that it seems to be something that the Mirrors of Tuzan Thune, another great Kull story.
Oh, yeah.
One of my
Definitely
favorites.
Gonna do that. Yeah, let's do that next.
Yeah. The interesting thing with that one is that it deals with what is reality, just as this story does. With Cthulhu's explaining all is illusion, all outward manifestations of the underlying reality, which is beyond human comprehension, since there are no relative things by which the finite mind may measure the infinite. The one may underlie all, or each natural illusion may possess a basic entity. All these things were known to Rama, the greatest mind of all the ages, who eons ago freed humanity from the grasp of unknown demons and raised their race to its heights.
Yeah.
And now with this statement is that there's a lot of Platonic Christian kind of metaphysical theories and illusions wrapped up here. And I think an important thing to bear in mind with Howard is that though there's a pagan element to a lot of his writing, let's just be honest, he dabbles and examines the pagan, but he was a Christian, and he's kind of discussing in the Kull stories the same, very similar. He's fascinated by certain metaphysical ideas that Tolkien examines in the Nature of Middle-earth essays and in Morgoth's Ring. So, and at a few points in the Silmarillion. So, Howard here is basically dumping this into his mythos, I guess you could say, his lore. And he's building up the sage Rama, who was a great sage. But the idea that there's more than the physical reality is something that it's pretty much fact. We all know it. And the notion that there's a reality beyond our senses is something that, from what I've been reading, some scientists are finally willing to accept that this is the fact. But what's funny is that British and French scientists and doctors and professors 100 years ago were all discussing how these very ideas, and we're like, yes, this is fact. There's an entire reality beyond which our ability to smell, see, and hear can't grasp onto. It's just that for some reason, after World War II, we became, not trying to turn this into a weird lecture, but we did become kind of full of ourselves as a society. And we kind of, as a society, forgot a lot of the wisdoms of the early 20th century and the 19th century. But Howard was at that cutting edge and came around in that era and was writing in that era. So he was reading that stuff for, I guess, fun, and was thinking about it and coming across a lot of these ideas, which he wraps up in this speech by Cthulhu's.
Which is it a play on Cthulhu?
I think it is. I think he's having a bit of a dig at his best friend Lovecraft.
Yeah, I thought was that like a fun insert?
Yeah, I think he's
in a way a nod,
teasing
nod
Cthulhu's. Well, Cthulhu's, yeah, he's teasing Lovecraft, but I also think that this is also his very loving and warm-hearted
because
of Lovecraft in his
because doesn't this is kind of like the stuff Lovecraft usually puts in his stories. The mind cannot understand. Lovecraft always usually has that mind goes mad because of the knowledge it gains, because it's overwhelming, so it cannot understand like it says here, the infinite, the finite man cannot understand it, and all that kind of stuff. Now when I think about it, it's quite a nod to Lovecraft, I think, here.
And Lovecraft, we got to bear in mind, was one of those people who was generally very intelligent, and, well, obviously, and he was a brilliant writer in his own right, and was someone who was a bit of a gruel to Howard's Kull. Like, he was his best friend and all but sworn brother, and did a lot for Howard and his family. So,
Yeah.
this is quite the nod, and I think it's more a playful thing. And I imagine Lovecraft probably appreciated it.
Yeah. It is also.
But I like how
also
Conan just dismisses.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say it's a great, just world building here. Like Rama, who is this person? It's like he's a mind or a person who helped humanity to like rise a bit in the early days.
Was it against the Snake Man?
Yeah, but wasn't there was even an era of like straight up demons. I mean, I think Snake Men were part of it.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Didn't even the Kull movie talk about like there were demons in like
there was,
yeah,
and they call it Acheron, but it wasn't Acheron.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Acheron. No, that's later.
It was Akivasha and her father, which they dubbed Zaltotun. And there, Zaltotun's a demon, and Akivasha was a half demonic mad empress, essentially. And it was an age of demons, and humanity was enslaved.
Right. I mean, to be fair, they could have been called the same. Like the name was taken later on from that earlier empire. So that could be actually, but yeah. But that's a great.
So your theory is there was two empires of Acheron.
Well, basically the same demonic entities, but they raised both. Yeah, they raised both. It just came back.
Yeah, they took over once again the mortal realm.
Right.
And ruled for
well, they tried. They had their own empire, but they didn't really have all of the world in grasp. Like because the barbarians came down and destroyed them. Closer to Conan's time.
Near the end of Zaltotun's reign.
Right. Yeah. Zaltotun's reign. Yeah, when he was taken out.
I really like your theory.
But this is really cool because here it really talks about that. And it's also interesting here we get that it was like you said, Kanu says he was a mighty necromancer, and Cthulhu immediately says he was no wizard, no chanting, mumbling conjurer, divining from snakes' livers. There was not of mummery about Rama. He had grasped the first principles, he knew the elements, and he understood natural forces acted upon by natural causes. Producing natural results, he accomplishes apparent miracles by the exercise of his powers in natural ways, which were as simple in their manners to him as lightning a fire is to us, and as much beyond our ken as our fire would have been to our ape ancestors. So I guess this was also kind of in a way to say that it didn't have anything to do with spirituality, but what was more a physical revolution or revolution of the natural that helped raise basically the humans out of that slavery to be someone to contend with, so that they couldn't be ruled.
Yeah. And two asks the next question of, then why did he not give all his secrets to the race? And that's where Cthulhu has a good answer. He knew it is not good for man to know too much. Some villain would subjugate the whole race, nay, the whole universe, if he knew as much as Rama knew. Man must learn by himself and expand in soul as he learns. That actually sounds like something Lovecraft would have said in one of his letters to Howard. And it's something that actually sounds very wise, in that I think the key phrase here is, it is not good for man to know too much. And
Yeah, that's also one of the Lovecraft things. I wonder if there was some kind of because Lovecraft is all about that the human mind cannot understand everything, thus it goes mad, and that's why he really uses that theme a lot. Madness, cannot understand.
And I think
there's a particular beauty in that being aware that you won't know everything. There's always something left to learn. And if we did know everything,
that would be horrible.
It'd be quite boring.
Yeah.
No, it would also be horrible. I mean, think of you would know all the suffering of people, like and you couldn't escape that. They would be always on you. It's like
very true.
Yeah, it's
and and the interesting thing is, like what you just said, Dan, is it's not so much the end as the journey, is what you mean. So it's not about getting all the answers, but the process of learning all the answers. I like that.
And recognizing that acknowledging you're not going to know everything. There's a certain peace that comes from it.
Yeah, I think
humility.
It reminds me of I know this is somewhat out there, but the video game Dynasty Warriors 7, where the Shuma Jin clan that take over the entirety of China, they have a catchphrase of "you should know your limitations," and they often throw this in every other character's face and say, "You're arrogant. You should know your limitations," because the other characters often act like they know everything and they have all the answers to all of life's problems. And I think here this is an acknowledgement. We need to know our limitations and accept them. But man often doesn't want to, which is a sad reality. But there's something that that's funny here with Kanu. Yet you say all is illusion. Now it's mentioned that Kanu is shrewd in statecraft, which he is. In Shadow Kingdom, he's brilliant.
Right.
Kanu's he's so clever. He's one of my favorite characters. But he's ignorant in philosophy and science, and apparently respects Cthulhu's greatly. How is that? Do we not hear and see and feel? And you have the slave. What is sight and sound? Is not sound absence of silence, and silence absence of sound? The absence of a thing is not material substance. It is nothing. And how can nothing exist? Which, that is such a I don't want to say mind-numbing, but that is such a complex idea. We've got two more who joined. Hello, Mark Scheiber.
Hello.
Looks like I missed a few comments. Sorry, off topic. Kind of reminds me of Denethor. He knew too much by looking in the Palantir, though shown by Sauron and despaired. That's actually, that's actually what World of Conan was kind of driving at. If you know too much, you will despair. And Denethor is truly in that situation. Tolkien seems to have been flirting with that very same idea with Denethor and the Palantiri. Yeah. And even Saruman. Thank you, Mark, for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. Yes, you would know everything like the God Emperor of Dune, Leto 2. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Wrong franchise. I have no idea who that character is. I don't know anything about Dune.
Oh, yeah. I think you would love that book because it's very, very much like this. It's very philosophical, a lot of thinking ahead, long, thousands of years, planning and stuff you go through, like what is necessary for the human race and its survival. It's a complex book, the fourth one, the God Emperor of Dune book. It's not something like you just read and then you're like, okay. It's like you really leaves an impression. It really leaves an impression, that book.
Well, maybe we'll do that for our Sci-Fi Corner channel, but currently we're reading Barsoom for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Grimdark pushed us for it. Hand pink waving. Okay. Hello, Ares Aurelian. He's a regular. You're always welcome here. But yeah, we've started on Barsoom. We actually watched the movie John Carter first, and we have a review up on our Sci-Fi Corner channel. It was such a great film. But yeah, we're going to be... We still have the first video to sort through and whatnot and upload and publish.
I was just reminded of the knowledge and the Denethor comment, like in the Bible, in the Ecclesiastes 1:18, it says, "For with much wisdom comes sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief." So
yeah,
it can become a hindrance.
Which I wonder what that makes. No,
not ignorance, but stuff like too much of something that you can't let go of it. That you can't let go of it. That it becomes like a stronghold in your mind, and it begins to overtake you. The knowledge.
That sounds exactly like what happens to Denethor, actually.
Yeah, so that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. See, this is why we need you on most of our streams, because
oh, it's fun to talk about these things.
But Kanu ends up asking, then why are things? And they are appearances of reality, like silence. Somewhere exists the essence of silence, the soul of silence. Nothing that is something, an absence so absolute that it takes material form. How many of you ever heard complete silence? None of us. Always there are some noises, the whispers of the wind, the flutter of an insect, even the growing of the grass, or in the desert, the murmur of the sands. But the center of silence, there is no sound.
And now we get to the plot of the... Well, it all
story.
Leads to the plot. Yeah, it leads to the story, the plot of the whole story.
Rama, said Kanu, long ago shut a specter of silence into a great castle and sealed him there for all time. And here we get Brol, who mentions that he's seen it and that when he's traveling the wild region of Volusia, and that it's known as the Skull of Silence. And now, for one thing, there's the lore of the Castle of Silence, which no one likes to go near. That's established. There's the philosophy here about the nature of silence. But on a more character-based idea here, we...
Oh, wait, I gotta change my headphones. Just wait a second.
Okay. I'll just check the chat. Yeah. Okay. It's just I occasionally max the screen to see World of Conan better, just to let the people in the chat know. And because I also find as the chat is coming in, sometimes I find it distracting. But that's why I do all the chat thing in one burst. And sometimes Dan keeps track of the chat for me and interrupts me when necessary. But today we're doing it this way.
Nice white headphones.
Yeah.
But
thankfully I had another.
The character thing with Brol is that Brol often travels the length and breadth of Volusia and the hills of Solgara, where the Skull Keep is. And it's like, even though Brol is often found at Kull's side, there are times when he travels still away from Kull.
Probably to the Pict homeland, maybe.
And with eyes and ears.
Yeah, but there's also the fact that this is later kind of referenced by this Axai rule, where one of the major conspiracies against Kull is planned just as Brol is not around, because you don't want Brol around when you're trying to kill Kull, because Kull himself is a dangerous enough enemy, but to have him and his sworn brother by his side, they're unbeatable. Right. So you gotta get at one of them when the other's not around. And of course, Cthulhu's sensing that something's going amiss, since Kull said, "Oh, I want to look at that thing," Cthulhu's basically goes, "Okay, no, King, this is not a good idea, especially for you."
Yeah,
looking at this thing. But Kull gets insistent and impatient, and decides, "No, I'm going. I'm going to go see this."
Yeah, this was like, what? Do not.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
The opposite of what Conan would do.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something magical that we don't deal with it. Don't touch it.
Yeah, Conan is like, oh, it's been dealt with. It's in a place. Nobody has to do anything. Okay, good. I don't like the wizards and magical things. It's like
the trouble for Conan is that you then have Conan's companions or a villain who kidnapped some maiden or something, often going, that accursed looking place. That's the perfect place to hide.
Right. Yeah, that's how we would get there.
Yeah. But the thing with Kull is that I'm bored.
Curious.
I want to check it out. I got nothing better to do this week.
And I think this is the difference once again with Kull and Conan. Kull is very, like I said, in his mind, he thinks and he's inquisitive and curious about, like, sometimes in a large, too much, like on a much larger scale than Conan is. Conan is more like, I do this, then I do that, then I enjoy this, and I'm here. But more of that.
I think in terms of, I think Kull in some ways is a different kind of part of the grieving process of something being so big beyond human imagining, is that maybe to an extent there's denial or something akin to that, in that he's, he wants to touch it. He wants to, he's curious about it. He wants to defy it. He wants to, like, be able to grasp it on a human level. Conan wants to the way the universe is, like, no, I'm not going to go dabble with that. I know that's beyond my comprehension or power. I accept that. So, leave it be.
So it's more like Kull wants to know the infinite.
Yeah.
While Conan is he's fine with the finite.
Yeah.
He's in, like you said at one point, he's come to terms. He's in agreement with the finite. But Kull is interested in the infinite and wants to touch the greater beyond.
I think Conan's probably the wiser of the two. Not to bash Kull, but I think Conan's wiser. And inherently understands I can't touch or
right, in a way.
Like grasp everything. Yeah. I shouldn't. There must be a limit. I must have limits.
But what do you think about this, that silence is kind of like an entity, a person, and that it was that there's a center to it, and it's been shut up in this castle? That's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah. It's also a terrifying idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with it, but it is, like, because it talks about, like, silence here, that it's an elemental force that exists, that can take over. I more think that silence, like it said here earlier, it's the absence of sound. So it's not a person or with an intelligence or something like that, I would say. But it is an interesting idea, though. It's a very cool idea. Make a story.
And I like how now they ride amongst the mountains of Zalgara, which Zalgara is the hills and mountains and highlands that are near the capital city of Pelusia.
Did you know the second story is also at Zalgara? That's kind of interesting. We picked two stories that are the same location, thereabouts. Yeah. That's very interesting.
Zalgara. Sorry, I love Zalgara. I like the name.
I love the Zalgara Mountains.
What?
I love the Zalgara Mountains. There's always something afoot. Mischief.
Yeah, and I just like the way it rolls off the tongue. Zalgara.
This is funny.
And you also have, of course, they're accompanied by the 100 Red Slayers, who follow Kull seemingly everywhere, even into the bathroom.
And Cthulhu's, like, he actually says that the might of that element is evidenced by the fact that not even Rama was able to destroy it. He only imprisoned it. Enough, Kull gestured impatiently. Rama has been dead so many thousands of years that it wearies me to think on it. I ride to find the skull of silence. Who rides with me? It's like, what? No, I'm going this way.
You're not even listening.
You're not even listening. I'm going that way. Goodbye.
And you have Cthulhu's like, wait, hold on. No, you're not even listening to me. You don't just ignore me here.
Yeah.
And you have Kull. Yeah, I'm done with this conversation. It's boring. I'm going off there. It's like, what are you doing, you idiot?
It's a good thing Fluter wasn't there. From Prydain.
Yeah.
His mentality. If it's magic, don't touch it. Nothing good can come from magic.
Yeah. Kull would ignore him too. Because why not? Everyone ignores Fluter. No,
it's like if someone said, "Yeah, there's a great death up there in the castle, like really horrible." Oh yeah, let's go check it out. It's like, what? Maybe not this time. I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason why it's been unpopulated for thousands of years.
Cthulhu, who, having followed Kull, tells him not to do this, and that he would loose upon the world a monster whose might and frenzy no man can stay. And Kull just gets impatient, waves him aside, and I like how he words it as, he was in the grip of a wayward perverseness, a common fault of kings, and though usually reasonable, he had now made up his mind and was not to be swerved from his course. Basically, he's determined to act like an idiot. Let's just be honest. And
it's the inquisitiveness, curiousness.
Yeah, normally Kull is a brilliant character who thinks everything through. He ponders and thinks a lot. But not today. Unfortunately, not today. He's not really thinking. He doesn't even care.
I think he just wants to find out. He's interested.
Maybe he thinks he's in Scooby-Doo and he could just unmask the killer.
Or part of He-Man trying to get that power of the secret of the castle Grayskull.
Well, Grayskull, like the idea of Grayskull probably derives from this castle.
Exactly.
But except they turned that into a force of good, whereas here it's anything but. And you have Kull, who demands that Cthulhu reads the ancient writings on the seal to the castle.
Yeah.
And he commands a second time. With there on a frame beside the door on the curious. Now there's a gong, apparently of jade, or at least it's green in color. And jade has connotations in Chinese mythology of eternity, and especially since green is also the eternal color. And so we got here, those themes. So this was meant to be sealed forever. Clearly not with Kull as king. And Kull is warned by the great Rama through this seal, that which was may be again, then beware all sons of men. And Cthulhu tries once again to warn Kull. A warning straight from Rama. Mark ye, Kull, mark ye. Kull snorted and, drawing his sword, rent the seal from its hold and cut through the great metal bolt. He struck again and again, being aware of the comparative silence with which the blows fell. The bars fell, the door swung open.
Cthulhu screamed.
Cthulhu says he knows what's in there, and he's going, "No, please stop, boss. Don't be stupid." And now he's screaming. And Kull is disappointed that the chamber is empty at first. He's like, "Oh man, all this for nothing." Only for silence to then tear out of there.
Yeah, I think this is very well written. He saw nothing. There was nothing to see. Yet he felt the air throb about him as something came billowing from that foul chamber in great unseen waves. Cthulhu leaned onto his shoulder and shrieked, and his words came faintly as from over a cosmic distance. The silence. This is the soul of all silence. Sound ceased. Now that's quite a terrifying thing.
We also have mythological references here.
Mhm.
Pandora and her box.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think of that so far.
Where
it makes sense. Yeah.
Pandora was warned, do not open the box. And what did she do out of curiosity? She opened it.
And we're still paying for that stupid mistake on our part. I'm joking. Joking.
There's some great illustrations. Once again, there's the Kull riding to...
Yeah, and in the upper
then we have
corner, there's a great one for the castle.
There's the castle.
Yeah.
And then we get the next page, we get the opening here. Opening of the doors. It's really cool. Great illustrations.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was very, very well written here. I thought like it really sound ceased. Horses plunged and their riders fell face first into the dust and lay clutching at their heads with their hands, screaming without sound. Now that's an image there in your mind.
With the spirit of silence apparently it even enters Kull's soul, claws out his heart, and begins to hammer at his skull and within his skull.
This is what I meant. It's different to Conan. There isn't these kind of stories really.
No,
with Conan, and this brings back in mind to the beginning poetry. And he knocked on his skull with his knuckle and laughed, if you'd call it laughter, at the billion facets of dying in his outstarred eyeballs shining. So it brings back to the opening poem, the skull thing. Because it says here, he clutched at his forehead in torment. His skull was bursting, shattering. In the wave of horror which engulfed him, Kull saw red and colossal visions, the silence spreading out over the earth, over the universe. Men died in gibbering stillness. The roar of rivers, the crash of seas, the noise of winds faltered and ceased to be. All sound was drowned by the silence. Silence soul-destroying, brain-shattering, blotting out all life on earth and reaching monstrously up into the skies, crushing the very singing of the stars. Now that's a line there. That's quite the vision.
It sounds horrifying.
Terrifying. It's kind of destruction going everywhere.
To be honest, I've seen the Atlantic recently, and to imagine those crashing waves, which I love so much, silenced is horrifying. And I actually like the noise of the winds. So this is very horrifying. And I like how it's also added silence, soul-destroying, brain-shattering, blotting out all life on Earth and reaching monstrously up into the skies, crushing the very singing of the stars.
Yeah.
And
then we come to and then Kull knew fear, horror, terror, overwhelming, grisly, soul-killing.
Now, real quick, this line about the singing of the stars sounds like something Tolkien might have written regarding Morgoth. So it's a great line as well. Yeah, Kull is finally acquainted with fear.
Yeah.
Only took him making one of the stupidest mistakes of his career.
Yeah, this is not something you can really touch. This is something primal. Elemental, like it said earlier in the story. Rama knew the first principles, and he knew the elements, and he understood natural forces and acted upon by natural causes, producing natural results. Even though you could say that, but this also is an entity, so it goes beyond the mere
mortal comprehension.
Yeah.
And
still interesting there.
Yeah. And we get to how Kull's buddies react. Kanu and Cthulhu are motionless. 2 writhed on his belly. And then you have, interestingly, Brull, who is basically trying to claw blindly at his scabbard and move, well, it's implied move forward. So even when all but beaten down by this, Brull's still got the instincts, his wolf-like instincts, one might say, to remain loyal to Kull, protect Kull, but also attack at the enemy. So, yeah.
By the way, when it said here earlier on a page, like we haven't heard complete silence, there is a place, I think, in Europe. They made a chamber that is supposed to be complete silence. They made the interior is of that kind of material and made that it takes away the sound. And they say, like, I can't remember the record, but no human has been able to be there more than like few hours or something, like, or even that long. Like it's horrible. It's horrifying to be in total silence. Like you can't, because you never are. So it drives you crazy. So that's
there's a reason. There's a reason why in so many stories, I think we saw in Dragonlance, how here it is. Sometimes characters walk into a forest, they don't hear anything. They don't hear animals. They don't hear chirping, and oftentimes everyone's like,
something's off.
Something's
wrong?
Off.
Yeah.
Are we being hunted?
Well, they're drawing inspiration from Howard.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that my only question about building such a thing so that it blocks out all sound is, why would you build that?
And I think it's I think it was an experiment or something, but it is real though. But it's not a fun try, as I understood it.
Yeah, I can't imagine what would motivate someone to want to build such a thing.
It's here. It's called. Let's see. Scientists created the quietest place on Earth, a concrete chamber where you can hear your blood move. Nobody on record has managed to stand in the world's quietest room for a whole hour. So, yeah.
Sounds like they're reaching, like their reach is exceeding their grasp.
But it gives like an idea to when it says here the destruction and the destructiveness of silence, like driving a person mad. And then we get once again to the Lovecraft part of it, driving to madness. But here we go through an element or a primal force. It's a pretty good description here. It says, and still the billowing waves flowed from the chamber, clawing at him, tearing at him, taunting him like being sensate with terrible life. That's some good lines here.
And you have Rama left, of course, the means by which they could drive this thing back into its cage. And
yeah, that's interesting.
And of course, it somehow whispers into Kull's brain, which like that part had me going, wait, but it's silence. But anyways, it tells him, who are you, mortal, who are you to oppose me, who am older than the gods? Before life was, I was, and shall be when life dies. Before the invader's sound was born, the universe was silent, and shall be again, for I shall spread out through all the cosmos and kill sound, kill sound, kill sound, kill sound.
It makes me think of a HAL 9000 from Space Odyssey movie.
Yeah. But Kull ends up striking 3 times at the gong, and immediately the silence begins to draw back. And Kull ultimately keeps hammering at this gong, realizing it's his only lifeline, so to speak.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I first thought the gong was just to enter the building, basically. that it wasn't
Yeah.
anything more than that.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's a seal. It's a weapon against this thing.
Yeah.
And so Howard is combining the two into one, which is pretty interesting and pretty clever. So that Rama's means to stop this element is right in front of your eyes, so to speak.
Yeah, something that makes a sound, or the sound basically overtakes the silence.
Yeah,
but I guess it must be some kind of a special gong, though.
Yeah,
not just any old gong, because it's an entity that must be trapped here, I think.
And Mark has some more comments. A weird thing I saw a couple years ago. A lightning storm in the distance in the middle of the night, but without any thunder at all. That was as fascinating as surreal. That does sound pretty fascinating. I even went out and watched for like an hour. Oh, okay. I don't really sit outside in much lightning shows. If we get a power outage or something from a thunderstorm, I typically just pull up a book or start writing on a notepad or something. Because, or I think a few times we've actually pulled out the if we're at home and not at work, we're basically pulling out the board games.
And that's always fun.
Yeah. But anyways, so ends the story with Kull saving the universe after he nearly brought it to an end. And
yeah, I think it's very well written, the ending as well. It builds to the final line. It's really cool.
And the gong blew into a million vibrating fragments, and Silence screamed.
Yeah, to
it's
end it like
interesting
that.
Silence screams.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's his undoing. He has made a sound, basically.
Yeah. And again, alluding to Pandora's box, where she had to open it a second time.
Well, it's the first time she
opened up the things left. She closed it, and then later she was...
Well, what was left at the bottom? No, she doesn't reopen it. What's left at the bottom is hope.
Exactly.
Yeah. But here, with Silence, it was undone by its opposite element because it gave into its opposite element by letting out a sound.
But this is
a pretty interesting theme, and I wonder if it's to an extent maybe Howard just having another kind of dig at Lovecraft, even as this story was basically littered with nods to him.
Yeah, you mean like these kind of metaphysical themes, like what the mind can perceive and understand. So it's kind of like a silence and sound. It's kind of a it is funny in a way.
Yeah, I think that it's meant to, at least and Silence screamed is meant to be a little funny in that, like
maybe it's an inside joke a bit between.
Yeah, I think it is an inside joke between Howard and Lovecraft, and Lovecraft probably would have understood it and might have had a good laugh about it.
But it's really the like I said, the build up to the ending, like it's step by step, foot by foot. He fought his way into the chamber of death, driving the silence before him. Every step was screaming demoniac torture. Every foot was ravaging hell. Shoulders hunched, head down, arms raising and falling in jerky rhythm. Kull forced his way, and great drops of blood gathered on his brow and dropped unceasingly. Like that's quite the description there. Also, Brule came to help, I think. Yeah, Brule crawled blindly forward, trailing his sword, still dazed and only following his stunned instinct, which bade him follow the king through the trail led to hell. And then it just forced the silence back step by step, feeling it growing weaker and weaker, feeling it dwindling. Now the sound of the gong pealed out and grew and grew. It filled the room, the earth, the sky. The silence cringed before it. And as the silence dwindled and was forced into itself, it took hideous form that Kull saw yet did not see. His arm seemed dead, but with a mighty effort he increased his blows. Now the silence writhed in a dark corner and shrunk and shrunk. Again, at last blow, all the sound in the universe rushed together in one roaring, yelling, shattering, engulfing burst of sound. The gong blew into a million vibrating fragments, and silence screamed. I think that's, like I said, very well
and
build up voice.
And that's the thing, like, Kull leads... There's another thing. Kull leads them into hell, so to speak, and Brol follows no matter what. And
it also
their way.
Yeah,
Kull heads into danger. Brol follows to protect him, but here Brol cannot. In this case, this is a. Brol and Kull are always saving each other, but here, Kull very firmly is the one saving.
Yeah, he makes amends to what he has done.
But
I also... No, go ahead. I'm going to just say one thing afterwards.
Well, all I was going to say was Brol... Brol's... Like... Brol is probably one of the most fascinating characters. And I just find he's a sentimental man's character in a way. Like, he's loyal to a fault. He's always at Kull's side. And ultimately, it might be the best modern depiction of the very definition of brotherhood.
Yeah. One thing that struck me right now when I read this, because it says here, like, it was like demonic torture. Every foot was ravaging hell. So basically, because in the beginning of the story, it says, all these things were known to Rama, the greatest mind of all the ages, who eons ago freed humanity from the grasp of unknown demons and raised the race to its heights. Because this entity really... It behaves like a demon. Like its point is to destroy everything. Because here in the vision, the universe. Because the Kull's vision is men died in gibbering stillness, the roar of rivers, the crash of seas, the noise of winds falter and cease to be. All sound was drowned by the silence, soul destroying, brain shattering, blotting out all life on earth and reaching monstrously up into the skies, crushing the very singing of the stars. So basically, Rama had helped to capture this and held it at bay, and he was the one also who elevated the human race in Kull's universe to from slavery to demons. And here now Kull makes the mistake of entertaining a demon, and he almost pays the price. Like it begins to torture them, it begins to attack them, and Kull fights every inch, every foot, every step of the way of this elemental force to drive it back from whence it came. So it's I just thought that was an interesting 2 points there that was mentioned earlier. So it's kind of like he dabbles with something he should not have dabbled with, something that was understood in an earlier time, that this is bad and wrong and it's been locked up
for a reason.
For a reason. You should not, because it's basically destruction itself.
Yeah, and I think that while there's a lot of inside jokes between Howard and Lovecraft, and there's a lot of themes and ideas here, I think that there's also a warning. There are things
should not be tempered with. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do not do certain things, and know your limits. And the trouble is, interestingly, Howard was always very concerned about the fate of men and where the future was leading us.
Right.
And this is something that it came from a place of love, I think, for humanity. So he's providing a warning.
Kind of reminds me of there's a interview with Christopher Lee, who played Saruman.
Count Dooku.
Yeah, Count Dooku, Saruman, and Dracula. And he said, don't mess with the occult. Like basically, he like really strong and sternly said, like, you do not mess with the occult. It will be your undoing, basically.
You will lose your mind and your soul.
Yeah, you will lose your mind. Yeah, exactly. He's right on. Because somewhere he had come across that he would have something like that, and he said no. Just kind of reminded me of the story and what happens here as well.
Yeah, and the thing is with Howard is that there's so many layers to, and so much thought put behind every story and every sentence. Like a lot of pulp writers back then were really good. A lot of writers back then were incredible. It's like you look at Tolkien, a lot of his sentences flow like music and whatnot. But ultimately, there are times in one or two chapters in the beginning, Tolkien meanders a little. And I love the meandering, but Howard does not meander. And when he does, it's chock full of warnings or of pondering about humanity and whatnot. And yet, there's a different, I guess you could say there's a different element to Howard. Like if Tolkien is the earth, Howard is fire or something. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And Howard is ultimately just a very complex thinking man's writer.
Right.
But yeah.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Conan taking down his enemies.